Alright, so now that you have a duplicate of your website template, I'm sure you're super excited to jump right in and start making it your own. Start adding pictures, start changing fonts, and adding colors. But if you're using this website for professional purposes, then you want your website to look professional. And the best way to do that is to have cohesive design all across your website. Now, what makes good design when it comes to a website? Honestly, it's principles. When you follow really good design principles, it's really easy to create a professional and cohesive website which conveys a professional service, a professional business. But what's the best way to do that? Well, the very first thing you want to do, or you need to do actually, is to create something called a style guide. What is a style guide? It's exactly what it sounds like. It is something to help you guide the style that you would use across your website. Now, the core elements of design when it comes to a good website are things like layout, spacing, color, and consistency. I've taken care of the layout and the spacing part, and that's to do with the template. But when it comes to your color and consistency, that's up to you when you start applying your colors, your fonts to your website. When you use random colors and fonts, it can look very chaotic very fast. I'm sure you've used templates before, and it looks really great in the mock-up until you start putting your own pictures and colors in, and somehow it just doesn't look right. Well, that's because you didn't have a style guide. So a style guide is going to help you make the most out of your template and help bring your personality to your template. I find using Canva for my style guide super easy. It works so well, and you can even design your logos in here. So what goes into the style guide? Super easy. You have your heading font, which I like using a serif font. That's the ones that have these little feet over here, paired with a sans serif font for paragraphs, because sans serifs make it easier to read if you have a whole lot of text. And they stand out very nicely together. If you look at the website, here we go. I used that droid serif and a sans serif here. I just put an italic on there just so that it looks nice, but it just makes it so much easier to read. So when you're choosing, I mean, you can choose whatever you like. When you're choosing your combination, just bear in mind how easy it is to read and how it comes across. Like, this looks super professional. If you want something more playful, you can add a different font. If you can play around with that. These are your heading sizes. So as you have heading 1, 2, 3, and 4, just like you have a Word document where you would have a subheading, heading 1, 2, 3, and 4, it's exactly the same thing. We changed the sizes here because Squarespace sets certain sizes. REM just means that it adapts according to the size of the screen. So the next important thing for your style guide is your color palette. Now, this is why I like using Canvas, because you can access your colors very easily and you can access your hex codes very easily. If you don't know how to do that, you go into a color that you like, click this little button over there, and your hex code will be over there. So as you want to adjust your color, the hex code will change and you can grab it and just use a text box. This is all this is, it's just a text box, and you paste your hex code there. It's important that you're able to copy and paste these elements because we're going to use it to customize our website. Now comes the fun part, is picking your colors. If you already have brand colors, that's fantastic. You can use that here. You can plug them into here, into your color palette. If you don't already know what colors you want your website to be, perfect. I've got some great tips for you. So when you're choosing your colors, you need to think about what type of emotion do you want your readers, your viewers to feel when they look at your website. And I know it can be very tempting to just grab your favorite colors, plonk them in the website and call it a day, but it might not match your brand identity. So always think about that. So things like, if you have a yoga studio, you're going to see a lot of yoga studios use greens, creams, browns, very earthy, very natural colors for their websites. If you look at insurance companies, for instance, they would use dark blue and white. All of these colors send a message. Dark blue is seen as very authoritative, very professional, very trustworthy. The greens come across as very calm, very natural, so it matches the brand of the business. So think about that. If you're not quite sure, Google what type of colors match with that. If you want something retro, what colors match with that? So I went with blue because I liked how professional it felt and I wanted a professional feel for my template. So when you're choosing your colors, Squarespace will ask you to choose 5 different colors. And you're going to use them for different things on your website. I like looking at my background first, so I chose this slightly off-white. If you look at the color picker, it's not exactly white, it doesn't go all the way up to the corner, it's just slightly off-white. And I use that for much of my background. You can see over here, and even within these blocks. So that's going to help you create the light parts of your website. If you don't want any light parts, that's okay too. Then you're going to look at your main color. I chose the blue. Again, that main color will pop up. I used it for background. I used it for elements. Background over there, as well as an overlay over here. I don't want this to be too bright. I wanted to be able to see the text, so I use that for overlay. Then I go for one that's slightly lighter than that. These 2 colors will be used for text. So there's that dark color that I showed you, the very first color, and there's the second color. You don't even notice it at first, but having just a little bit of variety just creates a bit of visual interest right there. This color, as you can see, is used for buttons. So anything that you want to draw your attention to, and that as well, you would use your contrast color, but you're going to use that very sparingly. Don't use that too often or it becomes overwhelming on the eye. You can see I used that there, but then again, not in a while. So once you decide on your main color, you go over to Pinterest and you can type it in. I typed in dark blue color palettes to see what popped up. So you can see they give you a variety of color palettes that you can choose from, which is really, really nice. You don't have to think about it from scratch. You can use these exactly, or what I tend to do is use it as inspiration. So let's pick one. I saw a nice one up here. Here we go. There's a nice one. You're going to take a screenshot of that, head over to Canva, and paste that right in. Okay, so now you have a base. As you play around with your colors, you're going to want to change these colors as you go along. It's going to happen. And it's very easy to get lost in your color choices. It's infinite. Your color choices are infinite at this point. So I recommend just keeping this example color palette. Even if you don't stick to these colors exactly, it gives you an idea of kind of where you want to go, the direction you want to go with when it comes to your color palette. If you want those exact colors, okay, they have 6 colors here, but you want those exact colors, Canva is fantastic for that. You're going to go over there, you're going to go to your color, you're going to go to your color picker, and you're going to find that very first color. There you go, and that changed. Remember to always update your hex code, because you're going to use that later on. There we go, it changed. So you can go through that throughout. Okay, so now that you know what colors you want to use for your website, it's time to choose the pictures that you would use. So head over to a stock picture website and type in your color as well as the theme of your website. So in this case, I just used interior design as an example, and it will give you a whole bunch of pictures based on that search query. What I like to do is download as many pictures as I can, and then I paste them onto my style guide as well. So this helps you choose pictures that line up, that work well together essentially, and line up with your color palette. So for instance, this one, I really liked it. It looked pretty, but it doesn't really match with my theme that I set out over here. So I started off with the eucalyptus, and this is like too spiky. It's too bright. It's too contrasting. So that's a little tip. Once you decide on the pictures that you like, pictures that work, the pictures that don't work, delete the ones from your file that don't work. The other thing I want to mention is just make sure of the licensing, double check the licensing of the pictures that you've downloaded. So the free licensing means you can use it however you want. Normally with the paid ones, you won't be able to use it on your website. So just double check according to the stock image site that you're using. Double check the licensing that goes into that. Okay, next up we're going to learn how to apply all of this to your website.